So now that we understand context, let's go over the useContext hook. The very first thing you need to do is actually create the context. And this is very easy to do with just one line of code. So you can go in a separate context.js file, and then in a variable called context, you run react.createContext, and you can supply it any initial value that you want. The initial value is not important because it will get overridden in the value of the provider, the value prop of the provider, which we'll see in a second. And then you can just export default at the bottom. After you create the context, you have to import it in the root app.js file. And you can use the syntax I provided right here. After importing it to the root app.js file, you have to wrap all your routes with the context provider, as you see here. Then the context provider takes a value prop, which can be a JavaScript object that contains many properties itself. And these properties are all user defined, and you can make them either a value or an arrow function. And this is why I mentioned in the last slide that setting up the initial value in the context is irrelevant, because they're all updated right here in the value prop. So if you want to set values or functions, you have to do them here in the app.js file. Setting up props in the context file does not do anything. So far, we've been going over how to set up the context, but now we can see how to use the useContext React hook. So the first thing we have to do is we have to import the entire context into the child component that we want to use it in. After importing it, we can initialize it like you see below. So simply pass in the entire context object to the useContext React hook and save the value in a context variable. And then that's all you need to do to access the global state. In your render method, you can read the state with the following syntax: context, which is the variable name you initialized, and then state prop 1, which is a property we saw in the last slide that was applied to the value prop in the provider. And to set the state, you simply use the arrow function and then context.update state. And remember, update state was the property name that we supplied to the value prop in the last slide. And finally, you can update the state in app.js through either useReducer or useState. Either one is fine.